What is going on, guys? Blink here, back with a new guide. Now, you guys might be looking at the time of this video and might be kind of surprised as it is a little long. Now, I might be starting to create full gameplay guides too. I'm not going to stop creating my usual guides as those will always be uploaded first. If I ever do a full gameplay guide, that means I'll be uploading my usual guide with an extra video for the day, which means 2 videos in one day. So it's more content for you guys to watch, which I think is a win-win. Anyways, guys, let me know if you guys would enjoy 2 videos a day. My usual one and one that displays my full game with step-by-step instructions on how I play every situation. Anyways, guys, the V-Bucks giveaway is still going on, so make sure to visit the link in the description to enter. And lastly, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications as I post an Amazon gift card code in the comments every time I upload. By turning on notifications, you'll have a way better chance of getting here first and redeeming that code. Anyways, guys, let's get to this guide. So I'll be starting out at Retail Row, and as I land, I'll make sure to kind of look around to get a visual of where everyone lands, as it'll help me figure out where players are and help me make good decisions. Say I don't have the best weapons, I'll know where players land and try avoiding them as I find another unlooted house. So I do end up finding a slurp juice and actually wait until I open the chest to find a half. Now, I do take the half first, then the slurp juice, because if I took the slurp, I'd have to wait until it slowly gets me to 25 shield. Well, the half takes no time. So don't forget to take halves or minis first before taking slurps. Now, I do find minis, and yeah, I could have waited until I finished looting the whole house, but a lot of the times I take any shields I can right away, as I don't exactly know if there's opponents pushing me. And say I waited to loot the whole house, I might have not had time to take that shield if I got pushed. So I'm always taking any shields I find right away, just saves me from getting surprisingly pushed out of nowhere. I don't mind holding on to minis as having that 50 shield is more than enough for me to avoid taking any crazy HP damage. So I hit a few trees here as you want to try having at least a little bit of wood before you get into a fight. Now, I don't have a shotgun, and I believe having a shotgun early game makes it a lot easier when you're in fights. So you guys can see I shoot this player from a distance as it makes it much easier to track. I do want to do as much damage as possible before pushing, so I was able to remove her shield and get closer as it looks like she's trying to run and heal. She ends up coming right back at me, and it doesn't put me in the best situation as fighting close range with SMGs and ARs isn't the easiest thing to do. Thankfully, she never had a shotgun or it might have put me in a really bad situation. Now, another player comes by a few seconds later, and once again, I wasn't in a situation to fight close. So what I do is build myself above this player to see if I can keep a farther distance to make it easier for me to use my AR. Now, because I got above him, I was able to get some distance and his shotguns weren't much help for him. I was able to spray him down easily without taking much damage at all. So once again, guys, if you don't have a shotgun, you want to keep some distance from your opponents as much as you can. The closer your opponent gets to you, the harder it is to trace them with an AR. Now, you guys want to make sure you're boxing yourself in anytime you heal. Sometimes it won't do it depending on the situation, but try getting into the habit of boxing yourself in as much as you can. And if you don't end up boxing yourself in, then make sure you're spamming your crouch button. That way it makes it harder for your opponents to land shots. Now, I try gathering a little more wood as you want to make sure you're not completely out of materials, as you need to build that cover anytime you get pressured. After a fight, you want to go back to the high ground and spot for any opponents around, as they did hear the gunshots and can potentially be running towards you. Now, I was able to eliminate 2 players with the sniper, and once again, after eliminating 1 player, I like to keep an eye out for any more potential players running towards me. I've explained this in another guide of my favorite way of keeping my momentum as I look around. I like to add a half turn as I jump. I'm able to stay on the move and still spot for any opponents. So there ended up being another player inside this house, and they ended up getting sniped from somewhere close. So I now know there are at least 2 more players around me. I tried finding this player and had no clue figuring out where she was. She was healing somewhere down below me. If you know your opponent's weak, you want to try pushing them as it gives you a better chance of getting that elimination. Now, I circled the house and had no clue where she was. I do feel like they can somewhat improve the sounds a little bit in this game, as it is hard to tell if someone's above or below. It seems like it's really bad around tilted towers when players are coming up or down and you get so confused at where they are. Now, I gather a little more materials because you can never have too much, and as I try building above the house to spot for her, she ends up absolutely smashing me with the shotgun, and I had to place a wall down as fast as I can to get inside to have a better chance of healing. Now, I place a trap down even though she can come from anywhere. Placing a trap down slows your opponents as they now have to be more cautious when entering the house. I go for the heal as I make sure to keep an eye out for my opponent. I actually should have taken my minis first, but I do end up stopping my heal and taking a shot on her as she was crouch walking around, which makes it super easy for me to land a shot. My tactical shotgun ends up doing 175 damage onto her, which is absolutely insane. I don't think I've seen a green tactical do that much damage ever. So fortunately, I got a nice shot onto her and I was able to get my heal off off in peace. Now, I pick up a few weapons and I make sure everything's reloaded before heading out. You always want to double check your weapons before getting into another fight. I used to never check back my weapons and I'd get into another fight with one pump shot, which wasn't pleasant at all. So make sure you guys are rotating between your weapons multiple times when you're on the move. Now, I went right back up to the gas station to see if I can spot for any more opponents. Getting on top of that gas station roof gives me a visual on everything around me pretty well. You want to double check for any more opponents before you head out. And fortunately, I do hear shots up ahead, which means more kills. As I head over there, I try taking a sniper shot that doesn't connect. It's fine to take multiple shots as you're not always going to hit your first shot. It seemed like I was shooting slightly too low when shooting the player in the portafort or however you say it. Till this day, I still can't remember the proper way of saying it. I just say whatever comes out of my mouth. So the player in the portafort does end up eliminating the opponent he was fighting. So all I now have to worry about is the 1v1 right in front of my face. Now I'll explain a fake pushing strat I utilize in this scenario. I've actually shown it in a previous guide and I utilize it here. So what I do is place a few ramps down like I'm going for a push. After placing that second ramp down, I go for the peek because what my opponent's getting ready to do is peek out to try shooting me. He peeks out pretty far and I'm already in a position to pull the trigger as he was expecting a push. He never realized I was faking it to make him expose himself a little more. So it's a pretty handy way of getting someone to peek out. Your opponent will try unloading into your materials or you, and in order to do that, he basically has to stop moving in order to get as many precise shots in the direction where he wants, which means it's a pretty easy snipe since he's not moving. So I ended up eliminating another opponent as he tried pushing. Nothing too crazy though. These players just keep coming and coming. This is probably the most players I've seen in Retail Row in a solo game. It was pretty insane. So I head over to the Fortiport and see if I can spot any more opponents. I do make sure to check the walls as there can be traps placed all around the bottom, and it wouldn't be fun to run into one of those. So I'm looking around as I'm adding those jumps because jumps will throw any opponents off that are maybe looking at you trying to line up shots. You don't want to be walking or running around as it's much easier for an opponent to line you up. Now, as you guys saw, I turned when I knew there was a player around that area I was looking. I turned because I wanted this player to see my back turned as I jumped. That way he thinks I have no clue he was there, but really I was waiting for him to pre-peek me so I have an easier time lining up my shot. Unfortunately, he never peeked out and ends up headshotting me with one bullet. He was actually pretty good. One of the ways you can tell if a player is pretty good is the in and out peeks as he shoots. And he also one-tapped me in the head. Them crazy John Wicks. So I knew I had to play a little more cautious by changing up my angles as much as I can, just to keep him guessing. I also tried baiting him with a few AR shots, then pulled out my sniper for a quick shot. It's a great way of baiting players into peeking, as they think you're going to stop moving just to spam your AR. So this John Wick does try getting up close and personal, and I tried placing a trap down not remembering this wasn't my fort, and as you guys know, you can't place your own traps on someone else's fortiport. I tried flanking from below to see if I can catch him from the bottom, and I actually almost ended up dying as it was a straight up shotgun battle. Luckily, I did get the kill and we kept the game going. These portaforts are super weird to fight in. You can still build inside them, which is probably what I should have done, but I was curious to try to see if I can catch him on the flank. This resulted in us basically touching noses, and as I've said in my previous guides, when you're so close to your opponent, you're limited to building, because if I tried placing a wall down, it would have went right in behind my opponent, making it useless. So keeping my gun out and trying to hit my shots was the best thing I could have done in this situation. Make sure you're boxing yourself in anytime you heal. You can see it actually gave me time to heal while a new opponent pushed towards me. Having that cover is super important when healing. You can't really move around when you're healing, so you're more vulnerable to anyone around you. Adding that box around you keeps you safe and gives you more time to make a move if needed. This player pushed me, and because I had cover, I was able to get my last bandage off and make a nice smooth edit for the high ground. So I heal up again and I carefully look around for any weapons I can replace. You don't want to miss out on any weapons you can upgrade because you weren't really looking. So as you heal, just take a look at the loot around you and see if you need anything. Some of you might not know this, but you can drop and pick up new weapons as it won't interrupt your heal. Just something to keep a note of. So I go back for that high ground to spot for any more opponents before I move on. You guys notice I do this a lot, and I mean a lot. Anytime I finish a build battle, I'll go right back up to the top to see if I can catch anyone running in my direction. The reason for this is because you're already holding the high ground, and you can put on any needed pressure if you spot anyone. I don't want to blindly make my way down as a player starts building towards me, because now it puts me at the low ground as he holds the high ground. Now, I spot a player in the distance and end up taking a shot, as he's just sitting behind a tree. A lot of players try to be sneaky by trying to slowly sneak up onto their opponents. what they gotta realize is that they might be getting watched too. Never assume you're alone, play like you know someone's ready to take a shot at you. So I do spot the player he was scouting and end up engaging. I don't hit the snipe, but after you try going for a snipe, pull that AR out and see if you can connect any shots. This is basically the most common thing you want to do after sniping. You'll go for the snipe, then go for the AR for more potential connections. So I tried taking 1 mini and failed out in the open. And yes, I've talked about boxing yourself in when healing, which I never did. And I sometimes won't do if it's a quick healing item. So I did add that crouch bounce, as I said to add it if you're not boxed in. But once again, if you got the materials like I did, then it doesn't hurt to stay safe. So I want to ask you guys if you're enjoying these types of videos. I'll always have my daily shorter guides, but I'll sometimes add these full gameplay ones too. This allows you guys to get a feel of what I go through in each scene from start to finish. Just a cool little series I'll include some days, depending on if you guys enjoy it. So let's keep going. I don't want to lose this opponent, and in situations where your opponent's running, you want to build a few stories high, just so you can catch a glimpse of him and not lose track. This usually won't happen unless you engage from a distance like I did. So as you push up, build those stairs to see if you can catch a glimpse of your opponent. I got a nice shot on him and he lended me his jump pad, which was nice of him, and a half shield as well. I took the half and the storm was getting fairly close. Now, if you're not carrying any healing items, then you might as well use a jump pad, just so you avoid taking any unnecessary damage from the storm. So anytime you're building somewhat high, you want to at least double ramp it up. This gives you time to put your jump pad down just in case your materials start getting shot at. Say someone destroyed one of your staircases, you still have another one that's holding you up. In that time frame, you can place a jump pad down to get away before your structure collapses. If you're going super high, you want to at least use brick or metal, as it's got a higher total HP compared to wood, so just keep that in mind. Now, when you jump pad, try looking around for any opponents, as you might be able to get them in their back after landing. I never ended up spotting anyone, but an opponent did show up, with another portafort once again. Now, I went for the build-up as I don't think he noticed I was around. Anytime you spot freshly built forts and you're pretty close, then go for that build up as soon as possible. Your opponent will either be too distracted by finishing their build, or they're just not expecting someone so early. I spotted this player and tried getting close. He dropped on his portafort and went for the build up to see if I can catch him out. I built up and not sure where he went as it threw me off. He built his own little fort beside me as I put a few hefty shots into him. And you guys can see that single staircase. Now all I have to do is shoot it down while I wait for him to fall. And it never fell. It actually ended up glitching out, or he's some sort of wizard holding that fort up on his own. Now, I wanted to stay out of the circle to avoid taking any unnecessary damage, and this is where you'll have to keep spamming walls in the general direction your opponent's at. This just avoids you from getting shot in the back. The moment you're out of the circle, build up above your opponent and see if you can land that elimination. I accidentally jumped backwards, which put me down to the ground. Now, my opponent thought I was still up top, which I basically accidentally tricked him for the elimination. So I spot a player not moving and I go for the snipe. As you guys know, players that do not move are the easiest to snipe. No leading needed, just maybe a little bit of vertical adjustment depending on how far they are. If you guys haven't seen my sniper guide I created about a week ago, then I suggest you guys check it out. It's got every single tip and trick I use to be able to hit my targets most of the time. It's super recent, so you should be able to find it in the channel a few videos down. Now, when challenging opponents, you don't want to tunnel vision on them, as I always say. You can see me kind of looking around that dusty divot as I keep a close eye on my opponent. There are a bunch of portaforts down below, and there could potentially be one person sitting in any of those waiting to get that perfect shot onto you. So stay on the lookout and scope in to get a closer look if needed. Now that I think about it, this game has probably had the most portaforts I've seen in any of my games. I guess Epic increased the drop rate. So I'm still keeping a close eye on Dusty Divot as I loot my opponent. I don't really spot anyone, so my next plan is to get on top of the mountain to see if I can catch any players lurking. Now, you guys might be asking why I'm heading towards the mountain. And the reason for this is because it's much safer than me going around the mountain and a player ends up being right on top. I have the materials, so I might as well stay safe. Every little decision you make will either end up losing you the game or getting you closer to that win. Especially if you have maxed out your materials, then don't be afraid to build that extra cover when you need it. You can see every time I place a stair down, I looked in the area where there can potentially be players. I do this so I don't get lasered as I'm building up. Even when you're building, you still want to be aware of your surroundings. Say if I spotted someone staring at me, I'm able to place a wall down as soon as possible even though I'm on the stairs. So I got to the top, and remember to add your traps, just in case someone was following you and you never noticed. So there wasn't any players on top of the mountain, so I circled around the storm just to see if I can catch any players out in the distance. I do this just to make sure no one's behind me as I keep moving forward. The last thing you want to happen is you get shot right in the back, draining most of your HP after finishing up a fight. Some of you guys asked, every time you get into a fight, you get shot in the back after eliminating an opponent. And a lot of the times you don't check your surroundings well enough. So make sure you guys are scanning your surroundings properly. If you see any sort of mountains or hilltops you can climb, then do it. You'll be able to pre-plan any targets or expect new ones to be nearby. Now, I ended up spotting 2 players down by the wooden house. I was able to tag one up and the second player tried stealing my kill, which I never allowed that to happen. So whenever you guys place a good chunk of damage onto a player, you want to go for that push, just like I explained in my most recent guide. Don't allow them to heal and keep that constant pressure on them. Now, I build up above my opponent just to make sure he doesn't get away. It was a simple kill, and as I kill my opponent, another player shows up by the mountain, and I'm ready for another fight. So as you guys see, I'm utilizing the bait tactic where I shoot a few shots and pull out the sniper for a quick peek. I'm trying to get my opponent to peek out as I pull out the sniper, although he was a smart player as he kept changing his positioning, which kept catching me off guard. So as the circle starts to come in, I don't have to move as I have a jump pad. If you do have a jump pad, just wait out your opponent to make the move first. If you can catch him running, then tag him up and go for the jump whenever the circle gets really close. So the circle started to come in and I wasn't able to spot him. What you want to do is look around as he's probably already running. He actually somehow got pretty close to me without me spotting him, and I think he lagged out as he was walking sideways, so rip to that guy. Now, when you're close to the end of the game, you always want to try building in the middle of the safe zone, as it gives you a better chance of it landing on you multiple times. So when you're moving up to the middle, you want to build stairs as cover, not walls. I see a lot of players build walls when they're trying to move up. When you're building walls, think about it. You lose your forward momentum as you might end up hitting your wall and you have to go around it. By building stairs, you can keep your movement going without anything in your way. So I was able to secure my fort in the middle, and all I now have to do is look for this last opponent somewhere around me. He ends up pushing me, but I've gotten the best spot as I'm already set up in the middle with my structures fully built. As he builds, I can easily destroy his materials because they start out with low HP at first. So all I have to do is not allow him to build the full 3-story structure, and watch out for any sort of sniper peeks. Make sure you're peeking in and out as you shoot at his materials, just so you can avoid that sniper bait shot. Now, I never allowed him to build higher than 2 stories as I kept putting shots into him consistently. Keep that pressure on him at all times. After you take your opponent down to no shields, then go for the push to not allow that heal to happen. I almost messed up thinking he was inside the box, and I saw him at the last second. Thankfully, he was one shot and they ended up getting the win. So, hopefully you guys have enjoyed this super long gameplay guide, and let me know if there's something you would like me to change about it. Anyways guys, a like and a sub would be greatly appreciated as it does help me out a lot. Anyways guys, thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day or night, and I'll see you on the next one.